Thanks for staying with us. So last Friday, our vice president, actually, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, said that Nigeria runs an expensive government and there is need for a national debate. According to him, there's no question that we are dealing with large and expensive government. But as you know, given the current constitutional structure, those who would have to vote to reduce the size of the government, especially to become part-time legislators, are the very legislators themselves. Joining us via Zoom is a public affairs analyst and an economist, Mr. Wole Oluyemi. We also have the Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Appropriation, Honorable Iduma Igariwey. Welcome, gentlemen, to your view. It's good to have you both.
Good morning, and thank you.
I'll start with the honorable member, because it's always good to talk to politicians on this kind of matter first. The vice president had said that you have the key in your hands to reduce this bicameral legislature that we have to a unicameral one, such that we have one house. Can you hear me? We have one house, and possibly our legislators are even part-time. In fact, he went further to say that even the local government chairman should be run by civil servants. So this is a president saying we have to face the reality of the times. There is no money. We cannot afford how expensive it is to govern this country. Do you agree with him? And if you do, what steps do you think we can begin to take to begin to adjust and cut our cloth according to our cloth? Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. Did you hear that? Honorable, did you get the question?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Go.
Yes, I got it.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. The vice president, as a matter of fact, said nothing new. We have always known that the cost of governance in this country is very high. Recall that in 2011, even the previous administration of Goodluck set up a committee, the Steve Rossonye committee, to cut down the cost of governance, merge and restructure parastatal. But you find now that that has not happened. Not because the National Assembly or the legislators don't want it to happen, but because the executive, the policy implementing arm of government, hasn't had the will, the political will, as it were, to carry it out. But let me also say that it is beyond the wish of an administration. If we want to cut down on the cost of governance in this country, you need to do a lot of work to restructure. So it's not a matter of whether the legislators want or we don't want. For instance, let me give you an example. In this country, it is mandatory. It is a constitutional requirement, Section 147 of the Constitution, that every state ought to have a minister. So you find out that whether we like it as legislators or not, it's incumbent on us to approve a ministerial list of 36 ministers, including the FCT, from Mr. President. So it's way beyond what the legislators want or what we don't want.
I don't understand.
That. We
Sir, please.
rethink with our constitution.
So you are the check. You are the check and the balance they taught us.
Thank you.
The legislator has control over what the presidency can do. You can. You have the power to call to order. You have the power to define and tell that you are representing the people. And the people have put you in charge so that you can check what the executive is doing. So, sir, I don't understand.
Thank you very much. I said Mr. Vice President was very correct when he said we will need to have a discussion on this. The country needs a dialogue on this. What Mr. Vice President was alluding to is we need to agree on how we move forward as a country. It is beyond the legislature. There are a lot of bills we can't just initiate on our own. There are bills that must come from the executive. So legislators cannot just wake up one day and say, we want to tinker with this section of the country.
All right, sir.
Of the Constitution, without us having a dialogue on it. We can't, for example, wake up and say we don't want 360 federal constituencies anymore or 109 senatorial constituencies anymore. We can't do that. It will require a national dialogue. So it's beyond our function under Section 88 of oversight. No, or our
Hello?
of the Constitution to make laws for the good of this country. It's beyond that. we must mandatorily have a dialogue on some of these
all right,
before we can say yes.
Point taken.
This is the direction we want to take.
Okay, but we've had dialogues before. We have the National Confab 2014. We have, yes, reports as well. We've been dialoguing. Are we not tired of dialoguing? Is this not a way to keep stalling from doing what is right? I believe that the government knows what is right. Now, the former Commonwealth Secretary General, Emeka Anyaoku, advised that he started by saying that he doesn't expect the National Assembly to change the Constitution because it would affect them, and that's the truth. So he advised that we have create another Constituent Assembly to change the Constitution. The problem we have is the Nigerian Constitution, which is not serving us right now. Shouldn't we be looking in that direction than having another national debate again?
Yes, I'm all for cutting down the cost of governance. I believe it is good for this country. What cutting the cost of governance means is freeing up more revenue, more resources to develop this country. Right now, that is not what we are having. Right now, you don't even have up to 30% of your revenue going into a capital, which is not good enough. So the point is, like I said earlier, there are certain calls that are beyond the National Assembly, the current National Assembly. In the past, we had a national conference that recommended certain things. We don't know what those recommendations are because they are yet to be implemented. So I would say, as an opinion of mine, that instead of even constituting another national conference, we can go back to the report of the national dialogue we just had under the previous regime. So we can have that as a starting point.
Right.
So I agree entirely that
let me move to
a new conference.
Okay, let me go to our guest, public affairs analyst, chartered accountant, Mr. Wole Oluyemi. You are hearing what we're hearing, and I don't know how you'd like to respond to our lawmaker at this point, especially on the cost of governance. Mr. Oluyemi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
What are your thoughts?
Yes, I've listened to what Honorable Iduma have said, and it's coming to what I've actually also mentioned at a couple from before, that one of the major issues we have as a country is a structural problem, structural and size problem. And I'll just give you an example to illustrate what I'm saying. The University of California in the United States has a budget of $40 billion, which is about 15 trillion naira. Nigeria's budget is about 10 trillion naira for 2020. So that shows you that a single university in the state of California has a budget that is higher than that of the Nigeria's budget. That's point one. But then when you now look at how we're spending money in terms of structure that Honorable Iduma himself alluded to earlier on, from that same budget, we have maintaining 109 senators, 360 House of Rep members, 36 governors and thousands of advisors. We have some governors who have close to 5,000 advisors and special assistants. We have 36 deputy governors, 36 state House of Assemblies, 774 local government chairmen, and each of those local governments has at least 6 to 10 councillors working for them from that same bucket. So when you look at that, that already shows you the dysfunctional nature of our structure as a country. And then when you now look at even the spending efficiency, that, okay, the little amount we have, how do we spend it? You describe that we spend money without much control. I'm happy that someone like Honorable Iduma is in one of the most powerful committees in the House of Assembly, the Appropriation Committee, which the major function of the Appropriation Committee is to control the purse of governments. Is to control how they are spending. But what have we seen from the House Appropriation Committee over the last 2-3 years? If Honorable Iduma himself is alluding to the fact that, yes, there is an opportunity to minimize the cost of governance, what has the Appropriation Committee done over the last 3 years to ensure that we control those frivolous spending of government? We know how much this government and the previous government have spent on things like healthcare, even the Asoro Clinic. Now we have an epidemic, we have the COVID-19 crisis. We have senior members of the government being diagnosed of COVID, and they have to import them from Abuja to private hospitals in Lagos, despite the huge spending that we've been spending on healthcare in those government institutions.
Let me pause you for a second.
That shows us that we have a lot of issues.
Right.
So all of us are in agreement. Like, we've been saying this thing for years. It's not now that we need to cut the cost, especially within our political class, because you can't start cutting your civil service. However, I've been in this space where I feel that one of our major problems is lack of productivity in our civil service. Wow. So we have a very bulky civil MDAs. Every ministry, there are departments, there are agencies, there are different things, different people working separately, but how effective and how productive are they working? Because if they are running the system well, the system will churn out more revenue. We don't even have the revenue. So for me, the call will be two ways. So I want to ask the Honorable, what is holding back the implementation of the Oronsoye report? What would it take to implement that report? I want a firm answer from your own suggestion. You're in the House, you can move for it. What would it take? That's number one. Number two, how can the Senate, the Houses of Assembly mobilize creatively increase productivity within the civil service? Because as long as civil service becomes a block, which it is right now, if you want to register, you have your money, you want to get a C of O, you would wait in the queue, and you are unable to drop your money. You want to pay your taxes, you cannot drop your taxes. The tax officers are fighting for their pockets and not for the government. So these are the systemic issues that are reducing cash flow and reducing productivity. So what can we do from the economists to tell us how we can increase productivity, and the politician, sir, Honorable, please tell us how we can implement this report that we know is already on ground.
Okay, well, first and foremost, let me just correct the impression given by my friend Wole about the function of the Committee on Appropriations. It's not our duty at all to rearrange completely what is presented to us by Mr. President under Section 18 of the Constitution. What he does is present estimates, proposals actually, but what is our job is not to completely rearrange it or to say, no, government cannot do this, government cannot do this. It's not the job of not just my committee, but even Parliament. There's a limit to what we can do. Attempts to even work on the budget leads to a lot of infighting between the executive and the judiciary, and you hear issues of budget burden and all that. That is when we think certain things ought not to be. That said, going to the Oronsoye committee's assignment, that assignment was given to a committee by the executive arm of government. That committee presented its recommendations to the executive arm of government. So it's only the executive arm of government that can explain what it is doing with the report of that committee. How come they have not implemented any of the recommendations of that committee? Because if that is done, a lot of funds will be freed up for much more important things. There are a whole lot of ministries, parastatals, agencies, commissions that are doing, duplicating things other committees, commissions and parastatals are doing. There are certain commissions that, which is what this committee also was assigned to do. There are certain commissions government is funding. Government is not supposed to be funded. So the job of the Oronsoye committee went very far, and I will really want to use this medium to appeal to government to have a second look at it. Luckily, the president has started doing that. I just hope they carry it to its logical conclusion. Now, finally, about the State Houses of Assembly, under Section 5 of our Constitution, everything about the state, we don't have anything. It's the call of the governor of every state. That's the nature of our federal system. So while we can talk about issues on the exclusive and, of course, concurrent list as federal legislators, we can hardly dictate to a State House of Assembly the way it makes laws and the kind of laws it can make. So we are completely hamstrung when it comes to activities concerning State Houses of Assembly. Thank you.
Okay, let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We still have our guests in the studio, public affairs analyst, chartered accountant Wole Oluyemi. I'd like to direct this question to you because, honestly, in view of our current circumstances, the pandemic, the economic breakdown, the fact that oil prices have totally crashed, you will think there will be a sense of urgency within the government to tighten our belt and to reduce costs. So you're here listening to a lawmaker, and I mean, amongst other, and even our vice president speaking, agreeing that we need to cut the cost of governance, which we've been screaming for years. But do you feel is a talk show, but do you feel that our governments are ready to actually begin to cut down? Because if our guest was in the kind of same urgency that we're in now, maybe he'll be saying, listen, let us even start considering unicameral legislature. What do you think, Mr. Oluyemi?
Yeah, it's already a sad story, actually, for us to be getting to hear the Vice President, Osinbajo, saying that after 5 years of being in government, that the cost of governance is high. I mean, you wonder that if you are a CEO of a company and you've been at the helm of affairs for 5 years, and it's taking you 5 years to discover a problem that the whole world knew had already existed even before you came in as the CEO, then it's already a challenge as to the capability of what you can do to fix the problem. So that's why it's a big concern that the Vice President is just raising that as an issue after 5 years of being in government. But having that as me, we need to have, I mean, there is a need for us to ensure that there is a sense of urgency in the critical sectors. You know, we've talked about healthcare, we've talked about education. What have we learned from the failures of this current government and the previous government, you know, that we now want to use to leverage on and move forward? What have we learned from our healthcare sector based on COVID-19? What are the things that we need to do differently? I'm not hearing anything new from Abuja, from Aso Rock, or from the parliament to say, look, these are some new changes we want to do around healthcare. You know, we are still struggling with resident doctors going on strike today, calling up tomorrow after some few palliatives. You know, we don't really have a structure as to what we want to do. You know, so really it's painful that we got into this level where after 5 years of being in government, we're just realizing a problem that was there even before we started with this government. But then it's not too late. We can start from now.
So they didn't just realize.
We can start immediately now.
Have the right information. They didn't just realize, because the vice president has been mentioning it over and over again, that they need to cut costs right from the beginning, right from the first year, and that was why there was a Steve Oronsoye's committee. So it's not like it's something new. It's just because he was addressing a policy. There was a webinar. There was a class.
The Oronsoye committee was actually from the previous government.
Oh, of course.
So the story has actually been there even before now.
So it's not new.
So it's not even this current administration.
Bringing this conversation back to where we started, the vice president is saying that the legislators who can be the ones to direct and drive this reduction that we're asking for, do they have that political will to do so? But speaking with the lawmaker this morning, he's saying, no. He's the executive. So, BC, I'd like to come to you now. I'd like to ask you one question. How does this make sense? Go ahead.
So, for me, what I hear is the lawmaker passing the buck. So, they said it's you that has the yam and the knife. He said, no, it's not me. It's you people that have the yam and the knife. Can we even tell ourselves the truth? If we really need to, I always say this, and I say it with all conviction, that Nigerians know what to do to solve their problem, but they're not ready to solve the problem because the problem is benefiting a few, and the few have the power. I always say this. Now, we have issues of mismanagement of funds. Nigeria is a very vast and large country. We are still struggling to ensure that we have the basic amenities for the people. Now, we have mismanagement of funds. We have people who have served and who are still earning from the same states. So we are taking in new people, new governors, new presidents, and the old ones are still being paid from the coffers of the state. We have 70% of our revenue to servicing debts. Who will survive where you have 70% of your salary to pay basic?
Q1.
So let's now go to
the issues.
So this question, therefore, is to the lawmaker. We know all the problems. Is there something
we can start
the lawmakers can begin to do
to solve
to realistically begin to cut costs? Honorable Iduma, this is for you.
Action points, sir.
I have connection problems.
Oh, okay.
What was the question?
Okay, pretty much, I mean, earlier, BC had told us or reiterated all the various issues we have of cost. We're paying 70% of our revenue is going to recurrent expenditure. The fact that you've mentioned a few other things.
The first quarter revenue went into debt servicing.
So quite a few things. And we're saying that just like the VP had said, the legislators, they're the ones. They have the knife and what do you call it?
Yam.
And the yam in their hands to actually review the Constitution. Everything you're saying can be done by constitutional review.
Yes.
Simple.
Bam.
But you are saying earlier now that no, it's the executive that's supposed to actually implement this. For us, we want something direct from you as a lawmaker. What steps can we begin to take? Are we really awake to smelling the coffee of what is going on today? So what can we do?
Give us some action plans, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me really make the point, and I think I have made this point, that we are only an arm of government whose core mandate is to make laws. The drivers of this country, constitutionally speaking, they are the ones who give direction to policy, who say this is the way this country should go. We compliment them. I'm not saying we don't compliment them, but the point I'm trying to make is that, look, there are core and basic issues that belong to the executive. Let me give you a clear example. We passed the 2020 budget, but it took the executive to say, we want this budget to be revised. There's no way the legislature could have said, bring back this budget, we want to revise it. It was the executive looking at the totality, the enormity of problems that are supposed to attempt solving with the budget, knew that there was need to rethink and tinker with this budget, and they brought it back to us. That's the way the system works. There's no way we can do certain things on our own.
Okay, let me be sure, sir. Sorry to cut you off. Sorry, let me be sure I am very clear.
When they brought back this budget, they now said, Mr. President said, let me finish. Mr. President now said, I want to take away 30% from recurrent overheads. This on its own would have said, MGAs, take away 30% from your budget. It was the president's call, and he made it. Take away 20% from what we call administrative capital. That is all these things like a laptop. We want to do this. We want to buy new. The president, the order was, we don't want it this year because of the economic crunch we are having. So the point I'm making is some of these cost-saving things, plugging these loopholes, they actually belong to the executive.
Okay.
Don't you advise?
Okay, wait. Let me be sure I get the
necessary legislation.
Sir, Honorable, let me ask you some basic questions. Like, for example, can you as a lawmaker initiate, first of all, changing our legislative from bicameral to unicameral, number one? Is that something you as a legislator you can do, number one? Number two, can you as a legislator also reduce the number of local government that we have, or stop us from having local government chairmen, but actually changing the law to have civil servants be the ones to be the administrators of the local government? Is that something that the lawmakers can do? Because that's a cost reduction suggestion. Number three, can you as a lawmaker... Okay, answer those two first.
Yes, completely impossible.
Okay.
Can't you pass the bill?
No, sorry. So let me answer the first one.
Okay.
Can we by legislation, change from the presidential system we are operating to a parliamentary system?
Yes.
It is completely impossible.
Okay.
It's like saying it's impossible.
Okay.
We can't do it. The only way we can do it is through a structural change. And I think I and Wole share a common agreement on that. It's only through a structural change, which can only come through a consensual agreement of Nigerians that we don't want this presidential system again. Mind you that this wasn't presidential system is something we adopted at a point in time in our national history.
So to
jettison it must still be by way of an agreement. We Nigerians now say we don't want a presidential system, we want a parliamentary system. That's the only way it can come.
Right.
There's no way this parliament or any parliament will sit down and say, we don't want a presidential system anymore. We want this. It's not going to be possible.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Sir, you are dispelling. I thought that the legislature, the way they taught us in school, what they taught us in school was that people were very, very powerful. So, but you're giving us a real-life situation concerning this. However, there's another thing that I wanted to find out if it is within your control. You mentioned that you couldn't, the president was the one that submitted the appropriation bill again for review. Is it not possible for the House of Assembly to say that based on the economic downturn of the world right now, we are asking the president to represent? Could it not be initiated from the assembly? The National Assembly can call on the finance minister, and I've seen that happen. Yeah. You can call on the presidency to defend why this is happening. So why is the House of Assembly currently, this current one, being seen as a rubber stamp to the decision going on, instead of being a check, which is to counter what is going on, whether it is right or wrong?
Okay. No, there's a lot of... Okay, to be honest with you, there's a lot of synergy between this assembly, ninth assembly, and the executive. I must admit to that. When I say synergy, I mean cooperation, and that is what a true democracy should be. Even in America, there are common areas of agreement. Before we agreed to revise this budget, we had a series of meetings between the leadership of the House of Representatives and, of course, the Senate, and the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Budget and National Planning. There was a lot of meetings before common grounds were reached, like what are the fundamentals? What do we agree that we should have as the cost of a barrel of crude oil, for instance? What quantity, what projections can we have? We agreed on all those things. So we can't just come up and say we are legislating this and legislating that. That's not how the thing runs. We sit down and agree on certain things. That doesn't make you a rubber stamp. That makes you a parliament that is working for the people. When you sit down, when you can agree to sit down with the other arm and agree on common issues. That is what we are doing. All right. And I think it is for the benefit of this.
All right, Mr. Oluyemi, I mean, you've been hearing us for the past few minutes. What are your thoughts on everything that has been said so far? What are your last words on this?
Yeah, I think, yes, I can hear what Honorable Iduma is saying. And I know that, I mean, I think there is this proverb that says sometimes when you are at the table eating, that you cannot be talking as well. You know, so when the focus of the National Assembly is how they'll put in 37 billion naira for the renovation of the House of Assembly in a single year. You know, I mean, it's possible that they might lose focus on the other things that are important to the people that elected them into the House of Assembly and into the Senate. You know, so I'm not really surprised that, yes, a lot of things that we would have expected the National Assembly to help us challenge the executive arm of government, that they are still struggling to even understand what's going on. But the issue is we all of us need to be conscious of the fact that, yes, we are in a serious problem. The Nigerian economy is not as big as we thought it used to be. And we have serious revenue deficits, and we have spending efficiency issue. You know, sometimes when we even approve this budget and they say we're spending so amount on a particular project, sometimes when you see those projects, you ask yourself that if Nestle or Cadbury or Unilever is doing a similar project, would they spend this kind of amount for this level of quality of work that you're saying? And a lot of times the answer is no, you know. And I mean, sometimes we joke about it that sometimes we need to outsource the functions of government to the private sector, and give it to MTN, and give it to Unilever, give it to Cadbury to be able to push this thing forward. So we have a serious problem. We need our National Assembly to be able to sit tight and hold the executive accountable.
All right, we have to wrap up.
We need them to be the watchdog for us on behalf of the citizens of this country.
Thank you so much for joining us. I have to just take a final word from our Honorable Iduma. 10 seconds, you want to wrap up, sir, for us?
Have they started paying you your full salary, sir?
Honorable Iduma, are you still there? Yeah. Final words for us before we run off. Yes, final words, sir, before we run off.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, finally, that the 9th Assembly, the one I'm talking about now, is doing the very best it can in the best interest of this country. That we cooperate with the executive to say that things move doesn't mean that the Assembly is a rubber stamp. Definitely not. It is in the best interest of this country.
Are you getting your full salary now, sir?
Unfortunately, that's all we can take.
Are you getting your full salary?
Unfortunately, that's all we can take.
That we are fighting with the executive. I don't think that.
Okay, all right, point taken. Unfortunately, that's all we can take on the show. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. We'll be speaking with the public affairs analyst and chartered accountant Wole Oluyemi and the deputy chairman, House Committee on Appropriation, Honorable Iduma Igariwey. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning.
You can watch Your View on TVC every Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Nigerian time on DSTV channel 418, GOTV channel 27 and channel 47, StarTimes channel 121 and channel 307, Play TV channel 801 and channel 190, UHF 49, Sky channel 515 for UK viewers. Watch live on Facebook at TVC Connect and on our website tvcentertainment.tv/livestream.